Hello everyone, welcome to Cinema Express. We will be having a conversation today with veteran editor, national award winning editor, Mr. Sreekar Prasad. This will be a conversation about his recent release RRR. Hello, sir. Welcome to Cinema Express. I would like to start this conversation with the RRR, which is the most popular at the moment of your projects. There are a lot of things about RRR which has been spoken about: cinematography, screenplay, and everything. So, editing na varumodu, in many of your interviews, you've said that a well-edited film is where you can't see that it's been edited. So, when you see RRR today, do you think that you have been able to give that, put your belief into that film?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because since I heard the subject, it's been 3 years in the making because of various reasons like COVID and all that stuff. But ever since then, I mean, we've been totally onto that project in that sense, I mean, the process which we employed was that as he's shooting, I'm editing in Chennai. And then whenever his gaps are there, then I go and sit with the director and finalize those sequences, not the whole film, but the sequences as they're going on. Because the thing is that it is a very VFX heavy film. So it had to be addressed immediately because that section had to go for VFX. It will probably take 8 months, 9 months for each sequence to be finished. So every stage we used to keep working on it at that time itself. So always that, and I must say that the director was very passionate, not only passionate, he was very well planned also to make this sort of huge film because I think it needs a lot of pre-planning, planning, and then again pre-visualization because there are lots of objects which are not there on the screen which we are imagining and editing. So he creates, he gives you a good brief on what he wants. And then we are trying to edit that and put it into that length, which will be correct proportion for the audience. And it's also imperative that we take that call that time itself. What will happen is over a period of time, the cost also will increase because of CG and time. Every man hour will get wasted. No? So he had to fix that this could be the length of this sequence, somewhere 10% this side or that side. But so it was a lot of work, but it was done very smoothly and very professionally, I must admit.
Sir, CJ in a Pesamoda, for instance, take that scene of Junior NTR, diving with animals. So a scene like that in editing on your table, so basically you won't be able to see the animals. No. You're just seeing him jumping. Correct. And it's green screen, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
So and the madri or a scene edit panamodu, how do you visualize it as an editor? See, what is the process?
See, the director is explaining the scene and he's saying so many animals are going to jump out and things like that. And then they do a process called pre-visualization, which is on paper. Which is they will create a frame which is drawn with one guy jumping. It's like a cartoon thing, so and there are number of animals. So then you're during the edit assuming that it will take so much time for these so many animals to jump out. So those you have to judge with the director. So sometimes we'll say this much is enough. Director, let it be a little more. Maybe I'll want it to jump down and jump up. One deer, I want to jump up. Also like that, it goes on. So we sort of have to imagine that first in the first edit. Then they have a proper CG department here where they pre-visualize some things and they'll give you some rough animals which are cartoon sort of things which will be put there. So then so it goes at stage by stage, and sometimes when with a little movement we get later CG which will be very rough. The animals won't be proper textured or whatever, but they will be there. One animal sort of creature will jump out and go. So other which we edit and then we finalize this in the length is good for that shot. So like that each shot has to be managed. Some shots are very well planned in the sense that he is moving with the shot and going towards some place. That means the animal will move from X to Y. He has decided there's no animal. We keep the shot and get the CG done for it. So like this, there is. See, in the CG world itself, a lot of thing has to be on judgment of time. This much is what we want to require to have. That we'll have to sort of decide during the edit. So it's some sort of calculation we have to. It's almost calculating emotions and things like that. If you have how much should a person react for a particular reaction. So if you react that much, he reacts, it's enough. That. So similarly, in this also we'll have to play by the gut feeling actually.
So between the CGI team and editing team, is there back and forth? Like,
Yes.
what is that equation like?
First, when it is shot, because if it's very specific CGI, like opening scene of the tiger attacks NTR, that sort of scene, it was clearly on a storyboard, everything. So this is what will happen, this is what will happen, but there was no tiger to shoot. Sometimes there was some dummy figure, or sometimes there was empty space. So according to the storyboard, you first edit the sequence and then you see if it's getting too long or too. Then this sequence is given to the CGI. Then they do the pre-visualization for that, where the tiger has to come in and where the tiger. First they're shooting with probably sometimes with the dummy tiger, with the cloth tiger, to get those movements where he's going back, forward, all those things. But so the next stage is it goes. So then the CGI keeps updating whatever they're doing, and the edit also slowly keeps changing according to it, depending on how much it can do and what it can do.
It's a parallel process.
It's a parallel process which goes on till the point where what you would call 60 to 70% CG comes into place, and then this is it gets locked. Then it's a matter of getting the CG better in terms of getting the skin texture and the movement and the body language, all that, goes on. That goes on later part. But till there has to be coordination. Every time they do a CG shot, they give it back to the editing room, and then we place it back and see it like this, and then director will give us feedback saying that it could have been better. Like that, it's a continuous process. For all CG movies, we have to go through this to get the optimum result,
Another thing is like one of the scenes that is like very popular is the introduction scene of Ram Charan. So I'm curious about how much footage did you get and how did you make that claustrophobic scene, like editing?
See,
how was that?
That was the difficult part in that for the director or for the edit, because he wanted to make, it is not a very conventional fight sequence which a normal hero would have. But here he went with the story and he wanted him to be a hero and a powerful guy, but he's also doing it as a cop. So whatever, so somewhere there is a sense of realism in what he's trying to portray, though it's much larger than life. Here, the challenge was for the director or during the edit was that we keep the violence, you get a sense of him being trapped inside that violence, and so because it's a, see, suddenly if you see, you say this is not possible, but if you can make it in a way that it looks possible, because so many people versus one man, and logically you would go and question that. Anybody, you don't give that time, plus you create the euphoria, because anyway with all these the crowd, it's always you have to be careful because they will not be behaving the same way. So he had a tough time shooting with the crowd also, because he had to make everybody baying for his blood, because the crowd, sometimes somebody on the left will be little placid and somebody will be energetic like that. So that, and then we had to make sure that he's moving through the crowd and he's getting hit and he's getting, so it's somewhere some sort of realism, and can't take too much time also, because it's not practical that he could actually fend them off for so much time. So he goes quickly, and so it was tough. It went a number of versions of editing and fine tuning it before this was arrived. Because that was not too much CG. Other than the crowds in the beginning, where there are lakhs of thousands of people besieging the police station. The actual action in which happened, that section was not much CG. It was properly shot. So it was planned and it was shot by shot. He has a unique way of working, I think, which he does sometimes, if he wants to perfect it, he even does some mock shoots. And we get that, we try to edit that, see that, and then actually go to the final shoot so that you get the rhythm and the length right.
So, when you said mock shoot, like at what point in the film did you get involved? Was it during the scripting process?
Yeah.
Like when did you enter?
Yeah, I got involved in the scripting stage, which was in 2018 June or something like that. And I met him first, and then he had a draft of the script. Which after that he had some improvement, but he had a good draft which he was ready to shoot. But then shoot only happened in November because of whatever. So during that process, we had 2-3 meetings, and then whatever I felt about the film, I had shared with him. About the story, I had shared with him, and then we had a few things, and he had also a team. His father, the writer, and then he has other people involved in the script and dialogue writer. So we used to, he used to call for these meetings where everybody and brainstorm, and some specific problem which would crop up at that point in the script or something like that would get sorted, and like that he moved on till the shoot, and then the shoot happened. So I was involved right from the start itself, and it was my first experience with him because I hadn't worked with him, though we've been in the industry for a long time, and I know from where he comes and what he's doing, and for a long time, but I hadn't worked with him. So he wanted. What I found was that what is more important is it's not only being successful. He's very successful. What he has done over the years, obviously everybody knows, and I too know. But I sensed sense of trying to push the bar up in filmmaking, which is why I got very interested in him, because he's going to make what he's going to make. But if the standard of making, the aesthetic of making, and the presentation, everything, it's getting improved with his films as it goes, which is a hallmark of a good director. Because so that because that is what you also want to know. You also want to get better with your work when you work on a project and it's get better instead of doing the same thing again and again.
So, when it comes to reaction shots in Rajamouli's film, it's very popular, and there are some very epic reaction shots in this film as well. And you have always said that timing of a reaction shot is very important. So, how was that marriage like when you sat on the edit table? Like,
we were on a pretty what you would call similar wavelength in this thing, and I knew I within a short span of time, maybe the first 4, 5, 6 months, I could sense where he was coming to. Although I didn't work with him previously, he's got his reactions are good, and his emotional quotient is quite high. So I had to adapt myself to that sort of thing. So to make the emotional quotient high, because he pushes the emotion to a high point before he breaks it down, always. So I could easily adapt to that sort of work, and it was not too difficult because I've done quite a bit of cinema before Telugu and all that stuff.